So I recently picked up this new Mortal Kombat, right? And been playing it, and it's like, it's good, it's really good, but it just kind of feels like 10. It just kind of feels like an update for Mortal Kombat 10. I don't know. Up-and-coming New York rapper Kamron Bahani has just released a fucking album, bitches. I fear thy fall succeed, and I think it's actually pretty decent, I can't lie. I've reviewed this man before on the channel. He had a project called Menace last year, which I thought was a little bit, you know, mixed, bit average on it. Wasn't huge on it, wasn't a huge fan. Thought he had potential though, and I will say, on this album right here, whilst it's not a huge, gigantic leap forward in my book, I will say it's definitely realizing some of the potential I did see in that Menace project. The content on Menace, from what I remember of it, didn't really come off too substantive to me personally, but on this new one, we're getting a little bit of introspection, reflection on Kamron Bahani's mental state and personal self and personal growth as well. If you look at the track list, you can see it's kind of divided into 3 distinct parts, all kind of separated by these skits that kind of are named after the title of the album: Thy Fear, Thy Fall, I Succeed. And each one of these phases seems to sort of be indicative of a phase that Kamron Bahani has been through in his process of being a musician. Even if musically it doesn't always hit for me personally, I can't really deny that there's definitely a lot of personal effort that has gone into making these songs. The first phase of this album seems to be sort of Kamron Bahani's response to his fear that he won't be able to do what he wants to do in life. And these first 2 tracks are both sort of outlining Kamron Bahani's instinct to sort of run away from his problems as opposed to face them, which is a very common response to fear. I think that's sort of the idea behind those tracks, but musically, I think they're both, you know, fine. Relocate is, in particular, not really for me. I think the beat on that song is a bit frustratingly weightless. I think the female vocals on there kind of make it seem a little bit over-dramatic, maybe. It also comes off to me like his vocal delivery on this track is just a little bit exaggerated, and that kind of sort of removes the power for me because it feels ever so slightly forced, in my opinion. Run Novella is a bit more of a memorable cut to me. I think the hook on the Run portion, though, is a bit weak. But the song definitely picks up quite a lot when it enters the Novella portion, the little beat switch that happens. I think he rides that beat really tastefully. So much fluidity in his flow and pronunciation on that second part, and that beat is just really bouncy, and the keys all over this track are actually gorgeous. Late Night was originally a standout track for me, but every time I hear the album, this track just becomes a little bit more obnoxious and grating. I think the horns are a bit overblown, the ad-libs in the back just kind of rub me the wrong way a tiny bit. But one thing I can't really take away from this track is definitely the hunger in Kamron's voice. He definitely does sound very eager and aggressive on this track. The only song in here that I found straight up just awful was Energy 2. This track, for one, makes no sense to be on this album. Maybe lyrically it does fall perfectly in line with the concept and everything, but I can't understand it. It's entirely in Spanish, bro. And I've got no problem with rapping or singing in Spanish. You know, language barrier is not a thing for me. You know, I've reviewed music from, you know, other parts of the world before where I can't understand shit. Pretty positively, actually. Problem on this track, for one, the beat sounds like fucking Despacito 3. And Kamron, my man Kamron, I'm sorry, bro, you're singing on the, I'm sorry, man, I can't get behind the singing, bro. I think your voice is mixed really loud, too, which makes it kind of hard for me to sort of look past just how aggravating I find just the cadence you have. I'm sorry. I couldn't get with it, dude. I just kind of interrupted the album's flow as well, which is a shame because I actually think this album has a pretty fantastic track-to-track flow. I think it really does feel like an album. It feels very well curated. I think the skits are also pretty thought-provoking. Thy Fall in particular is fucking facts, bro. That whole skit, I was like, bro, thank you. This track sort of refers to superficiality and how people can buy just kind of expensive things and, you know, Balenciaga and Prada and Louis Vuitton. And it's not because they actually, you know, give a shit. Kamron just talks about how buying all of these very materialistic things is just sort of like a coping mechanism, maybe, or sort of just like an attempt to get validation from people, like, oh, hey, yeah, you have this. That's like ultimately, like, what is it really for? And the part on this skit that actually clicked with me the heaviest was the part where he said, people always want to push these really expensive things, and it's almost as if society at large want you to buy all these things to stop you from having the money to fund your own career for yourself. And I thought that part was fucking, oh man, Kamron, yes, thank you. A round of applause for Kamron, everyone. Thank you for the facts. Thank you for the daily fucking truth. Now we have the final section, Thy Succeed, which is just 2 songs. The final 2 songs, Bad and Mossberg, I actually think are the 2 most just fucking ear-pleasing on the album, actually. The beat on Bad is fucking brilliant, honestly. There's quite a few different layers of percussion going on in this track. It feels very full, very bouncy, and I think Kamron's auto-tune on this song is actually super infectious. And I can see the exact same from Mossberg, which on every listen, Mossberg seems to be growing on me the most. And it's always a bit of a risk when you want to include flutes on your trap beat. If you're gonna make a trap beat and you go for a flute as your like main thing, there's a risk that the instrumental will come out sounding very, you know, trap type beat 5.wav, you know? And whilst in a sense, yeah, Mossberg does sound like trap type beat .mp3. It is pretty catchy. I think the lead flute melody is really hypnotic, and I think all of the melodies from Kamron himself are really catchy. The song is actually just a real grower. You know, every time I hear it, it just gets more and more stuck in my head. And I also want to touch a little bit on the song Gold, which I think is actually the most revealing and confessional song for Kamron himself on this album. How he talks about depression and suicide, and how he's considered killing himself, but he couldn't do it because he knew it would hurt those around him. I think there is quite a lot of value in this album's morals. I think some of Kamron Bahani's performances are a little bit over the top and exaggerated and kind of fail to hit home the emotive power of whatever the message of the song might be. The sound of this album, production-wise, is also just generally a little bit polished and clean and safe, and nothing really too, you know, show-stopping just on a musical level. But I definitely appreciate the many messages woven in throughout these songs, and Kamron as a rapper is, as always, very impressive and technical and speedy and enjoyable to listen to. He's pretty good at adapting his voice to any given instrumental in this thing. There's quite a good variety of different styles of production here. Overall, though, for my personal enjoyment, I'm rocking with a strong 6. A strong 6. It's pretty damn good. It's definitely his best work yet, and I'm excited to see where he goes next. Thank you, Kamron, for this wonderful set of songs. I'll see you on the next review. Bye!